Bryson DeChambeau didn't hold back when the announcement was made.
How tough was this decision?
Very difficult. I mean, it's been weighing on everybody out here for the past couple of years.
This isn't what I signed up for. Not a joke, not an exaggeration. That was his direct message to reporters who weren't sure they'd heard him right. The man who had become LIV Golf's biggest American star, the one who turned down generational PGA Tour money to join the Saudi-backed league.
It was a gigantic, it is the pretty much main reason besides family.
Bryson DeChambeau didn't mince words. This is what I signed up for. Not a joke, not an exaggeration. A direct statement to reporters who weren't sure they'd heard him right. The man who had become LIV Golf's biggest American draw, the scientist, the contrarian, the man who rebuilt his body and reimagined how golf should be played, was now publicly questioning whether he would remain in the league. The issue that sparked this moment sounded almost trivial when said aloud: a format change. LIV Golf was moving from 54 holes to 72. Most fans who read the headline assumed it was another ego-driven complaint, another prima donna athlete upset that the rules applied to him. Of course he complained, they said. That's Bryson being Bryson. It sounded logical at first. After all, Bryson had earned the reputation of someone who always did things his way. He was innovative, relentless, a disruptor who refused to accept the traditional model. But the truth behind his frustration went far deeper than a simple preference for rounds or scheduling. 3 critical moments reveal why this wasn't about format preference, why his threat carried weight far beyond what anyone initially understood, and why this quiet dispute exposed something LIV Golf had been desperately trying to hide. The first moment happened in a conference room in 2022, long before Bryson signed, before money transferred, before his name appeared on any roster. Greg Norman, LIV Golf's founder, sat across from him and made a promise: 54 holes, 3 rounds, in and out. This wasn't a minor detail. The format was the entire selling point of LIV Golf. The league wasn't just offering massive contracts or guaranteed checks. It was promising a complete reimagining of professional golf. No cuts, shotgun starts, team elements, and most importantly, condensed competitions that freed players from a 4-day grind that had defined their careers. Norman presented it not as a temporary gimmick, but as a revolution. We're building something different, he said. This is the future. Bryson, ever the practical scientist, asked the obvious question: will the format ever change? According to multiple sources present, the answer was unambiguous: no. Bryson built his entire decision around that promise. He told sponsors, agents, and family members who questioned the move, the 54-hole structure wasn't just a preference. It was freedom. It allowed him time to pursue long drive competitions, YouTube content, equipment innovation, and other projects that made him more than just a touring professional. That format was a contract's unwritten guarantee. And if that promise had held, none of what followed would have mattered. But it didn't. By late 2024, whispers began circulating, not from LIV headquarters, which remained silent, not from tournament directors or venue coordinators. Even television partners, who suddenly needed to renegotiate broadcast windows, kept quiet publicly. The official World Golf Ranking refused to grant full status to LIV events. Major championships tightened eligibility rules. Players who had joined LIV were watching their pathways to Augusta, St. Andrews, and Oakmont vanish. LIV's response was predictable in public: fight back through litigation, pressure, and politics. But behind the scenes, a quieter strategy was developing. If 54 holes disqualified LIV from legitimacy in the eyes of traditional golf gatekeepers, perhaps the format could evolve. This only works if one assumption is true, that players sign for money, not philosophy, and would accept any changes as long as the checks cleared. Bryson represented the exception. He had actually believed the promise. He had restructured his career around it. He had turned down PGA Tour offers that would have allowed him to compete in all 4 majors, Ryder Cups, and the Players' Championship, because he believed LIV's model was sustainable. When the 72-hole rumors became official policy in early 2025, Bryson didn't hide his reaction. He didn't hold a press conference. He expressed his frustration privately to another LIV player. But as often happens in professional sports where money and leverage intersect, that conversation leaked within hours. Here's where the logic unravels. LIV Golf's brand had been built on disruption, on telling the PGA Tour its model was outdated. 4-day tournaments with cuts were relics. Condensed formats guaranteed money and excitement. LIV spent hundreds of millions of dollars promoting that message. And now they were abandoning it not because the format failed. Events drew crowds. Teams created storylines. Shotgun start worked. No, they were abandoning it because the existing power structure of the majors, the OWGR, the gatekeepers they claimed to oppose wouldn't bend. LIV bent instead. Once the format changed, the league no longer represented what Bryson had signed for. That's the real story. His frustration wasn't about hole counts, it was about what the change revealed. LIV Golf wasn't replacing the traditional system. It was buying its way into it. The revolution had always been a negotiating tactic. Every player who signed thought they were joining an independent league that would create its own credibility, its own majors, its own legacy separate from a PGA Tour. The 72-hole switch proved otherwise. LIV wanted the same legitimacy markers it had spent 2 years trashing. OWGR points, major exemptions, approval from the gatekeepers. Bryson had reorganized his career for independence. What he got was PGA Tour control, just under different ownership. Fans at LIV events didn't understand this. They saw shotgun starts and team jerseys and assumed nothing fundamental had changed. But players knew. Agents knew. Anyone who read the original contracts knew. The format was sacred, and the moment it became negotiable, everything else became negotiable. Bryson's public frustration forced LIV into damage control. Not because he was threatening to leave his contract made that nearly impossible, but because he was voicing privately shared concerns. If the format could be changed, what else could be manipulated? The third moment came with LIV leadership's response. Greg Norman was pushed to the margins. His role became ceremonial. Real power shifted to executives with PGA Tour experience who understood leverage in professional golf. Their message was clear: adapt or be isolated. No threats, no breach of contract accusations, just subtle friction. Bryson's YouTube channel faced scheduling conflicts, requests for flexibility outside competitions, or team adjustments met with bureaucratic delays. Everything complied with his contract, but it made life harder. This is how systems maintain control, not through confrontation, but through friction. You don't fire the dissenter, you make dissent exhausting. Bryson could complain publicly, but LIV owned the infrastructure. Schedule, media, teams, sponsors. They built a league where individual leverage meant almost nothing. Players joined LIV to escape PGA bureaucracy, only to trade one form of control for another. The money was bigger, and so was the control. Bryson's options shrank quickly. Returning to the PGA Tour carried major penalties and forfeited earnings. Independent leverage was insufficient. Rallying other players risked his own position. Threatening to quit wasn't realistic, because the system was designed to make quitting impossible after the money was taken. From that point forward, LIV's transformation accelerated. The 72-hole format wasn't the last change. Teams evolved, schedules expanded, and rhetoric shifted from revolution to partnership. Disruptive promises became assimilation. Bryson stayed contractually guaranteed, but enthusiasm dimmed. Defenses of LIV became mechanical, commitment uncertain. New players noticed. They saw what Bryson learned too late. Promises made during recruitment and promises kept in practice are very different. Within a year, LIV's recruiting shifted. Less talk of revolution, more talk of money and stability. Philosophy was replaced by pragmatism. It worked, players signed. Tournaments happened. The league survived, but the vision of fundamentally reimagining professional golf died the moment 72 holes became official. Bryson's threat mattered because it marked the moment that gap between promise and reality became undeniable. He didn't quit because the system was designed to make quitting impossible. That was always a real format, not 54 holes or 72, not teams or individuals. Control disguised as opportunity. When Bryson said, "This isn't what I signed up for," he wasn't talking about 72 holes. He was talking about everything LIV had promised and never delivered.